Hey everyone, Yasin here, and welcome to another episode of Pointy Chins, where I take you through my art journey. Okay, so right off the bat, we're starting with some K stuff, and simplification has been a big part of the designs recently. Trying to figure out what is going to be an appealing style that I can draw over and over again, and which is easy to draw, and also, as I said, appealing, easy to color, and just things like that. So here I'm trying to simplify Miura, and I think she looks pretty good. There are some small things, like the hands seem very thin, and I'm not happy with the side view at all. I think this doesn't work well. I think the front view is fine, but the side view looks a bit off. The shapes are too thin, and in the front view you can see the silhouette is very contained. But in the side view it feels too, like the arms are thin, and this resolves in a point, and then there's these negative spaces which are, again, quite thin. If you just look at this negative shape, that's a very thin negative shape. Whereas here, everything is like smooth. There's fat negative shapes. And if you want something to look very dangerous, probably thin negative shapes are good. But if you want something to look very friendly and approachable, it's not so good. So, yeah, I'm not happy with the side view. Although the outfit itself is fine, I'm just not happy with the way I drew it. So I probably have to, slightly alter these shapes. And I'm not really happy with the shoes either. Again, it's a thing with the shapes. So, it's okay, but not quite there. And if you remember at the end of last episode, I talked about a character called Guillotine who kind of traps a person between these two things, and here they're horns, and then a blade descends like a guillotine. But it happens like horizontally. Or it could, in any way. Basically, you have two aspects, the blade and the horns that trap the person within. And so here I decided to flesh the character out. Before, I just had some really rudimentary sketch to get the idea of this. I got the idea when I just woke up at some point, and I had this idea of someone trapping someone within this type of thing, and the blade coming and cutting their heads off. And then I thought, oh, that's kind of like a guillotine. So, yeah, I made this character, and I kind of like her. And she fits in the universe kind of like she's more like what Kay originally was going to be, which is older, kind of sexier, whereas Kay's kind of become more, she's like 17 and bubbly and not so intimidating. So this character's helped to balance things out. And so I wasn't sure what color scheme to go with. So I really like the black and white, but it definitely is different than any of the other schemes in any of the other colors I've done before. I've taken black and kind of replaced it with this blue in all the other designs, where although I really like black, and I really like the combination of black and white, it just makes things look a bit unfriendly and dark. So I tried the blue, and it's okay, but it felt a bit boring. So I tried just different color combinations, pink, green, red, and white, and this blue and orange. And I asked Bob and Flavia what they liked. I think Bob liked the black and the green, but hated this one, this orange and blue one. And for me, I like the black and white, and I like the orange and blue because it caught my eye. And for Flavia, she liked the orange and blue. So that kind of made it, like, even though Bob hated it, it meant it was something was there for him to hate. And sometimes you have to value people's strong negative feelings better than people's neutral feelings. Because if they really hate something, it's got an emotional effect. So something is good in it. It's good enough to get them emotionally interested. And you can kind of turn hate into like a lot easier than you can turn neutral into like, if that makes any sense. Because strong feelings can be switched to other strong feelings, but no feeling, it's harder to turn no feeling into something. And you can flip it the other way as well. You can have strong negative or strong positive feelings turn into strong negative feelings. But if you're just like, oh, I don't really mind, I don't feel much either way, then it's very hard to turn it, in my experience anyway. So that sort of left a mark with this one. And then I was trying to come up with ideas for a male character, because I don't have really a male attractive character in the K roster. I have a lot of ugly characters. The most attractive one maybe is Nart, but I wanted to think of like if there were girls watching and they were just looking for guys who are attractive. Well, if they like Nart and he's gay, then he's not gonna necessarily be able to work in a way. So I wanted someone that straight girls or maybe gay guys could like, because gay guys could like Nart and that's fine. But I didn't really have like a hunk character. So I was kind of thinking along those lines, trying to do iterations. This guy's just a demon from Wraith, the Wraith universe. And then kind of like this one. But I wasn't entirely sure on the character. Here, I tried to make a detective guy who's investigating where Blue comes from. And this was the end result, but I'm not sure I really like it. It seems kind of boring. I was much more interested in this character, Guillotine. And so this was the original color scheme, but then Flavia suggested I invert it, that it would be cooler if the helmet, instead of being black, it was like orange. So I tried that, and then lately I am not thinking as much about what I like, and I think much more about what other people like. And the advantage of that is it really is making the things I make more accessible. And I realize that my tastes are a bit not many people share my tastes. I seem to be a fan of what I like, but not a lot of other people are. So yes, and for that reason, I'm starting to pick what other people like more. And so I thought of her weapon and how is it activated. And I thought maybe there's a handle where you grab onto it and then you pull down and then the blade comes out. So normally you just don't pull it down. And then I thought, what are other ways of making this weapon work? And I thought maybe it's kind of like a circuit where you have to connect these two parts, and then there's like an electromagnet which deactivates, because it's activated most of the time, which keeps the blade up, but then it deactivates, meaning it's no longer holding the blade, and the blade is attached to a spring, so the deactivation of the magnet makes the spring release, which causes the blade to like quickly go shing, and then decapitate or sever limbs or whatever. And I was trying to think of designs for it. It was very difficult to come up with this horn thing, so I thought of like this type of design, but then it looked like her arm is like, because this is the same color as this, it looked like the arm is doing that. I was thinking about color schemes again between these, like which one looks better, and I guess this one looked better. And then I thought, revisiting this, what does it look like from the bottom? What does it look like from the top and from the side and from the top? Maybe not 100% sure on this, but I do. Originally, I had these as kind of like just horns that were light, and I made them dark, and I think the dark definitely looks better. And here's Guillotine from the front, and then a sort of a full body from behind. And I'm kind of liking her. She's very streamlined. She doesn't have any ornamentation, and she's very acrobatic looking, which is what I wanted. And I wanted her to not... I wanted her to be very outstanding in a way, but not cooler than Huntress K. That was sort of important. So she teaches K, but then K surpasses her. I wanted that to be the thing. Here's just some figure drawings, 90-second drawings, and I don't mind these. So a lot of what I'm trying to do here is simplify the figures, and that's why I find them more appealing. So I'm not drawing exactly what I see, but I'm trying to draw the pose. I'm trying to make sure the anatomy works, but then I'm trying to stylize the characters. And I know it's going to be a lot of work to take on a new style. I mean, the simplified style is not where my nature leads me. I'm more scribbly, and I create very tall and long shapes usually. And this is very squished and cute and simple, very clean. So I know that if I'm going to do a style I'm not comfortable in, I have to draw a lot in it until I become comfortable, and I need to, through mileage, learn the rules of the road. It's not just for me, it's not like I just look at someone else who does it and I copy them, because I've never really done things that way. So what I do is just draw it over and over again until I figure it out on my own, and let mileage be the thing that solves a problem. And just some guy, random scribbly old brush. And realizing that I have to get experience with simplifying them, I have a bunch of characters that they were done, but they weren't simplified. So now I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to simplify them? And what does this look like? So started with Mub and Miz and Maz, his nephews. And in the beginning, I wanted to be very sketchy. So the idea is this. I am comfortable drawing very loose and sketchy and messy, with a lot of like organic gestural lines and a lot of sharps. So in order to make a good design, I shouldn't fight that. That's my nature. That's my tendency. So I want to work with my tendency on the first pass. And then the second pass is like, okay, so now that you have your things, simplify them and focus on rounding things out and combining the shapes and making it all clean. So when I do these ones, for instance, I can't have this the gradient for these things. They kind of look like eyes. I don't know what they are. The pattern. So I tried it with dots to see if that would work and convey the thing, because there's a lot less you can do with just a single pen with a fixed line width compared to a pencil. So yeah, I tried that, and like simplifying it so the arm goes, the shoulder goes right into the arm, goes all the way down. And I don't mind them. I think they look pretty good. I like them on this yellow background. So here's Arsha and Karen, the nurse, and again, trying to simplify them. So here, this was Karen's, again, I went from a more detailed version to a simpler version, but these were her original markings, and I didn't really like them that much in the simplified version. This kind of looks like a beard, so I just changed the shapes. But overall, I think they work. They both look pretty good. Arsha, I like Arsha less than Karen. And I found with this simple version, I I can get a lot less subtlety in the expressions and the personality of the characters, and that's pretty annoying, I guess. But it's just like a side effect that you do speed up in time, but you get some things and lose other things. So this is Bishop Bagram and Eradicus. My first time drawing his eyes behind his glasses, just wondering what he'd look like. I imagine he'd kind of just look like that. And I'm kind of happy with these ones. The three-dimensional quality of this didn't quite come through. This looks a bit like a flat image, so that was my bad. Not plotting it properly. But in terms of design, it's working, it's holding up, and that's really good. I have to simplify things much more and really figure out what do I keep and what do I not keep. So for instance, like belts, do I keep the belt? Do I not keep the belt? In this case, no. Here's Toby and Kitty Clack, their reporter, and some of the challenges were things like the microphone. It had two little things before around it, the rings, I believe, and just simplifying it. How do I simplify this broom, which is also a paintbrush? And I guess these ones weren't so bad. And then here I was thinking about it, like, okay, I'm talking about simplification, but what really is a good, like, am I being logical about this, or am I just simplifying because I think I'm supposed to simplify? So I tried to make a bunch of versions, so a realistic version, and then one in my preferred sharp style, then one in a more chunky style that's close to my sharp style, but just chunky and not so sharp, and then one in this streamlined style that I'm doing. And I wanted to add up these points to see what is the score, the end result of, like, is this easy to do? How easy is it to do? How fast is it to do? How appealing is it? And how much does it look like quality? Like, you look at it and you think, that looks appealing, and like that looks good in a way. You can have very simple things but very high quality. For instance, a vector line or a circle made with a vectored line where the line is perfect and the circle is perfect, and you fill it with a color that's very precise and it's very high quality but very, very simple to do. And yeah, it doesn't feel like wrong. It just feels like it's part of a style. So I was judging all of these, and I also did colored versions. So the ease of doing things in this realistic style, there's a lot of details. It's not easy. It's not fast. Is it appealing? It's okay, but it does look like there is a degree of quality in here. But when it comes to coloring, it's not too hard, but it's not easy. It's definitely not fast. I don't find this appealing at all. And I don't think it looks like quality. It kind of looks unfinished and messy. So the total score for this one was a 9 out of 32. For the sharp style, it was pretty easy to do. It wasn't that fast, but it was faster than this one for sure. I find it very appealing, and I think it looks pretty good quality here. For coloring though, it is sort of easy, but it's not fast because I had to go in and I was using color drop, and there are a bunch of areas that just weren't getting colored properly. So I had to manually go in and just paint all these little areas, which, I mean, it's not a big deal, but if you think about it, if you're doing a comic and you have to do this a lot, and you're constantly, instead of just, click fill the color, you're going in and then having to manually correct all the little places where things got wrong, things didn't fill properly, that takes up a ton of time. So that's a big negative. Appeal-wise, I really like the appeal, and I think it looks high quality in the colored version. So this one got a pretty high score of 21 out of 32. The chunky style. So this one, again, pretty easy to do. It's actually faster than the sharp style because I don't have to resolve everything. Here, everything is resolved into either a convex curve or a concave curve. So yeah, it is faster. The appeal, I think it's a tiny bit less appealing personally, although some people prefer this. And the quality, it's like, yeah, it's there. In this case, I think it looks pretty appealing, pretty good quality. I still prefer this one more. But it's a bit easier, and because the shapes are not so thin in a way, like there's less angles here, it's easier for the fill to work, but it still doesn't fill perfectly, like all these little areas you need to manually correct and fill. So overall score was 19 out of 32. And then the streamlined style. This was the easiest by far. Everything is within the contour, and you have to think of how to simplify these things. Like there's 3 buttons, how do you simplify them? And they just become circles. So it's easy, it's fast. I don't think this is appealing, and I don't think it looks high quality, but when you color it, it looks a bit better quality, and it looks a lot more appealing, but not more appealing than the others necessarily. But it's pretty appealing, and it's super fast to color though. And it's super, it doesn't, like, it's super easy to color and super fast to color. So the end score was actually, even though there was a big drop in appealing quality, it got the highest total score. Because one of the biggest things I have with the comic is I don't want to get burnt out. And I've worked on projects before where I do get burnt out, and it starts out good, like, yeah, it's going to be great. And then you end up just realizing, like, wow, this takes forever, and I don't have a lot of time for this. Because I still, if I was doing this comic, I wouldn't be expecting any kind of money from it in any way. I don't expect it to return me anything. I just like the idea. So I would be doing the comic just to do the comic, just to have, like, well, it's a story, and it's nice to be making something and to build a world. I really like world building. I really like fleshing out characters. So because of that, it's nice to do, but again, it's not going to make me money, so I'm not going to be able to devote all my time to it as much as I'd like to. It just doesn't make sense, or at least I can't see how it would make any money, especially being a webcomic. So I just see it as a kind of a fun thing to do, in which case not like taking too long is going to be really detrimental. And so I showed Flavia and Bob this, and they liked the streamlined one. They actually preferred the chunky one to the sharp one, which of course my taste seemed to be in the minority again. But they didn't mind the streamlined style at all, didn't bother them. So that was good. That meant that, oh, we can work with the highest scored one because it is easy and fast. And it's still relatively appealing. So keeping up with this thing of doing the sketches and then doing them more in a way I'm comfortable with, although I am trying to squish the shapes more, make them more cute and more simple. So the idea is really that I bring the worlds together. I bring my styles together, where I have something scribbly and I have something organic, and then I make it cuter and then sharp. Like, I try to keep some of the sharpness, but I try and keep some of the shading as well, at least in the pencil things, because I really like using a pencil. So I figure if I do most of the heavy lifting in this stage, then I just have to focus on this stage about simplifying these and rounding them out and making them very clean. And so these are these ones. So you can kind of see what what gets changed, what stays the same. The eyes, they have this eye thing, which I think the eyes look pretty cool. The colors are all right. I think it looks fairly appealing, and I kind of like how it looks on the yellow background. So I'm using this yellow a lot because it just feels like it works well with the style. I usually don't have too many yellows in the character. I mean, the hair and stuff, but it's sort of desaturated. And I think it makes the characters pop. So there's that. And for any Bakuman fans, I tried to do a Nizuma Eiji, but from memory, so I probably got him all wrong. I just know he had these they're not erasers, they're to like brush away the eraser crumbs, and then he's got a G pen. So yeah, I probably butchered him completely. I don't even remember if his hair color is right. And then doing more simple sketches, but trying to keep it cool. So again, combining everything, and I think this is sort of the answer, is to move all the styles, because I have so many styles I can do, but that's not a good thing, because what makes you strong in art anyway seems to be consistency. And I suppose that would be the same for business in general. A lot of what I'm realizing is the biggest lessons in what make you a successful artist are actually the lessons that would make you a successful business person. So things like just making things consistent. If you had a restaurant, for instance, and you had a menu with tons of stuff on it, and it was like, well, you do some Chinese food, some Italian food, some Indian food, some Mexican food, you would get a lot of variety. You'd have a lot of variety on your menu. And even if you were very good at all these types of foods, though, it would create the appearance that you're just selling everything, so you must not be very good at anything. But if you only had like Italian food, then it's like, well, that's your specialty. That's what you're good at. And people associate you with that thing, and they think, well, if I want really good Italian food, I'll go to you. And so what I'm trying to do is maybe create some kind of fusion cuisine, but keep it very consistent. So that's the goal for, like, it's still continuing right now, but definitely as I am drawing these, that was the goal. Bring everything together. And I think it's pretty appealing. I was drawing these red ones, I was drawing in a car, so the lines were very wobbly. I had to basically, I would like draw a line, and then the car would hit a pothole or something, and then it would shake. Flavia was driving, and we were going pretty fast, so any little bump makes your pen go like so I don't have to undo, draw again, undo, draw again. So these took a really long time to do. Oh, and it was very windy outside. So here I was just drawing some straight lines. I just tried to put my pen down and, or the Apple pencil, I should say, and then draw a bunch of straight parallel lines, and you can see how bumpy everything was. I got this far and then I couldn't do it anymore. And then, yeah, just more characters. Again, I think the appeal is going up. Personally, I think that. I can see how a lot of people might be thinking that, well, it looks less detailed, and so that makes it, or maybe more cartoony, and that makes it less cool. But I think that's very subjective. Personally, I do think it's more appealing, and just checking in, Flavia thinks it's more appealing, Bob thinks it's more appealing. I don't really show many other people other than Flavia and Bob, just because I don't want too many ideas. I get so influenced that I've kind of made it a point to be very careful with who I show things to. Because on one hand, I don't want to get discouraged if someone says, well, this sucks. But on the other hand, I don't want to get distracted if people say, well, for instance, if someone said, well, I really like these drawings, these are the best ones, you've got so much more life and energy, and then that might be an interesting path to follow, but the problem with it is I might go down a rabbit hole that takes me a while to get out of, and I might be sacrificing what I've already gained. So again, being consistent in some ways, it means or in a lot of ways, it actually means you can't do as much as you'd want. And I think when we learn, we tend to focus on what is good. Like, what can you do really well? And you think that's going to get me success, instead of what is needed. So if you think of art as a service and not as a result, because you can think of art a few different ways. You can think of it as a form of expression, self-expression. So I have feelings inside me, or ideas, or stories, or characters, and I want to convey them. Or I've seen something beautiful, like a beautiful landscape, and I want to portray that on the page. I want to capture what I saw. There's that side of it. But then there's a side of art as a language. And art as a language is more a form of communication, and giving art as art as a language, both of them require art as a language. I should say art as a service means you are doing art for someone else, for an audience, and for a purpose. So what is your purpose? So are you creating something that is meant to be very dark and gritty? Then maybe you need a style that's dark and gritty. Are you creating something that's lighter and more easily accessible and sort of fun? Then you should use fun colors, fun shapes, lighter tones. You really have to think about what your job is and what you're giving people and what you need to accomplish that. And for me, this was very hard to come to terms with this idea, because I never liked the idea of creating art as a service. And part of it was because I felt very much like, no, I'm an artist. I create for self-expression. And what I thought of, like, doing stuff for other people, but then I'm sacrificing my own standard or quality. But what happened is, as I started pursuing my own thing, fewer and fewer people were interested, it seemed. I was definitely getting less job offers. And so I was ending up in a place where I think I was becoming a little bit bitter, because it was like, well, I'm working really hard to do this thing that most people don't really seem to care about. And I realized that I actually like people liking my work. And this was kind of a revelation. It sounds pretty simple, but to admit to myself, I like making work that other people like. And I like people being happy. And even I like people paying me, because not getting much work, on one hand, maybe makes you lose self-esteem, but on the other hand, it means you also don't get money. So it's harder to just live day by day. But I do commissions, and the commissions I draw in a style that, a different style, where I just try to satisfy the client. And so my commissions were going up as I was drawing less in my style. So I had to realize, like, well, I like the money, and I like the fact that other people seem to like this stuff. So that changed my mind. So here is a van spec, the tall ostrich character, the sniper. He drives a K car, but it's called a Scrum R, and I tried to draw it and then simplify it. So here's a simpler version. I think it captures the mood of the original, and just some random characters, and then these are more like what I draw in my black sketchbook. Just some. I guess I had enough parts of this guy too. They come out, and then I allow them to surface. And here, just again, more practice with the cute, simple things. I tell myself it doesn't really matter what I draw. I just need to keep drawing characters and simplifying them and getting mileage in this. I don't have enough time to draw enough to get mileage very quickly. For instance, if I didn't have commissions and I didn't have students, then probably I'd just spend the whole day doing these sketches and doing fast ones. But as it stands, I've got about 3 hours a day to devote to Pointy Chins drawings like these ones. Each takes about an hour and a half to do. And yeah. I mean, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. I imagine this one was shorter than an hour and a half per page. But surprisingly, with some of the simple ones, it takes a very long time because I draw and erase and draw and erase. But yeah, it helps me to understand that I can get a result I am more happy with. I just have to not give up. Even if it's not comfortable to me, if I have a vision in mind, then I can carry that through. And also realizing that no matter what I draw, I will have my style in it. And maybe this will apply to you too, that if you have an idea of a style and you're worried that you won't be able to carry it through, maybe you have no choice in a way. Like maybe no matter what you draw, it'll be in your style just because parts of you will come through. And especially if you drew in someone else's style and then you asked yourself, okay, what would I change or what would I do differently? And you just fix those things, then you've already moved it towards your style. And it makes it in a way a bit easier to determine what your style is by just seeing what do you tend to move towards. For instance, just as an example, maybe I like bigger hands than this or smaller hands than this. And I realized, well, I'd change everything, or I'd keep everything roughly the same, except I'd make the hands much smaller. Then that would be something that reveals a style. And what I've seen with a lot of people, and this happened to me too, a lot of my students, I'm now kind of embracing them using their style as opposed to just like learn fundamentals, learn everything properly, and then adopt a style. It's more, okay, you have a style within you. Let's make it work while learning foundations. And for instance, they might have a tendency that keeps appearing, like they make the hips really wide or they make the torsos really long, but then they're making the necks really short. That doesn't work. So if you want the torso really long, you tend to have to stretch the neck as well, and then it works. So it's kind of a case where you can have some parts of your style working, but then you don't know fully what your style is and you don't know what you're missing. So you create odd things. And what I used to do is I would have like anime heads and then realistic bodies, because I learned to draw bodies realistically. But before drawing heads realistically, I would simplify them, and I really liked an anime style. So I'd kind of draw the heads in the style I liked, which was anime, and then draw the bodies in the style that I knew, which was realistic, instead of matching the two. So that takes a while to learn. And if you copy someone else, you actually get this sooner, because usually other professional artists have already overcome this. They've already matched the heads to the bodies. So then you can just take what they've done and apply that and copy it. So here's some more Spec drawings. I was curious what Spec would look like without his glasses on. So I thought maybe like this. And what his hair would be like underneath his hat. And yeah, he gave him this kind of down hair. And then I was just drawing hands, trying to simplify them, and things are okay. And then I was drawing with the hard round brush and trying to draw in this same style but use a hard round brush. And again, it's because parts of me like to draw with hard round brushes, and I like to paint more than necessarily drawing in some ways. Like sometimes I like to draw more than I like to paint. But there's a lot of my, I guess, personalities that like to paint more than they like to draw. So by taking the method they like to use, but applying it to the cute, simplified faces, I can kind of bring these two together and try to get them to work together. So here's more of the same. Playing with Miura, drawing her, simplifying her, trying to remember that I've got to get mileage. I've got to draw these things over and over again if I'm going to get mileage. Not to worry too much about what, and more just do it a lot. So it doesn't matter who you draw, just draw them a lot, or draw in a style a lot. I kind of like this one. That looks cute. And this one looks kind of dynamic. And then I was thinking at times in the K comic, this guy's making me laugh. I could simplify them into like a chibi form. I don't really like this one. The head's not working, but I like this one. This looks very cute. And so how would I do it? And it didn't actually take much to simplify them. Like here, there's issues with the hands and stuff, and then here it got a bit better when I simplified it further. It's always weird to me how less is more. This is probably one of the harder lessons for me to learn, that I can actually do less work or less lines. It's actually more work because I have to translate it, which is difficult. But once I do and I understand it, it's like, oh, wow, this is actually easier. And I can do less but convey more. So I can get more expression, I can get more charm while doing less work. And I simplified Miura. And from this version, Bob said he didn't like Miura. And I was looking at this, and he said this was good. This was very good, and this was not so good. It wasn't there yet, I think, was his term. So I was looking at these two and I was thinking, well, this one's legs are kind of simplified, almost like the Powerpuff Girls, or maybe exactly like that. And this one still has more curves going on. So I tried to simplify the legs and simplify the arms. And then, yeah, I think it does look a bit better. And then I wanted to take the things I learned from this and then push it back into the more realistic version. Even though it's super stylized, compared to this, it's more realistic. And I'm realizing, like, the more I do these super simple ones, and I have problem solving of like, oh, simplify that shape, combine these things, streamline these shapes, squish these shapes, change the negative space ratios, how much that actually applies to normal, but more realistic or even realistic work. Like, it still works, it carries over. So I'm seeing that design is universal as an idea, and certain things strengthen your design. Like working on very simple things, but very intensely, trying to get everything perfect, but working on very, very few simple objects can really enhance your sense of design. And design is one of those things where sometimes you look at people who work really hard and they really work on their fundamentals, and yet their work lacks charm or some kind of, like, it just doesn't look that appealing. It doesn't look as nice as someone else, even though they have, obviously they've spent a lot of time in perspective and anatomy and stuff like that. And usually what I've seen is that they're missing design. They're missing a good harmony of shapes and positive and negative shape usage and things like that. So when you add design into the mix, you can greatly improve your works. I was looking at a guy called Wanshin Baek, and he makes you should look him up if you haven't seen his work, but he makes heads super tiny and like the body's huge. So I tried to make a super tiny head and a big body, and then just playing around with a hard round brush on these two, because I don't know why I get such a nice feeling using the hard round brush. It feels very like coming home, maybe because I used to use it way back when. Another painting using a hard round brush. I like how you can imply details because you can kind of see the individual, like you can see that was a mark. So as these marks overlap, they create a bunch of implied detail, and that implied detail can look pretty realistic. Like if I squint, this kind of looks more realistic. And I like that feeling of being able to combine something very simple, but also has the illusion of something complicated. So I very much like painting with a hard round brush. I think it might be my favorite brush to paint with. And here I was doing figure drawings, but in the super simplified way. So I was trying to draw these super simple characters, the same as would be in the comic, but doing the drawings I saw, so the figure drawings. So, I mean, some of them look pretty cute. But it was definitely a challenge, especially when you see like taller people, like this guy's like tall and skinny. So how do I make him into this chubby, fat, cute style? Well, I don't know. So working out that was difficult, making these complex poses, and they still took 90 seconds. So in some ways it's much faster because you can simplify a line, but then it means you have to look at the person for longer in order to resolve that. Like, how do I simplify the leg? And yes, it's one curve, but understanding that it's one curve means I need to really look at it and think about it. But the more you do it, the more you learn. So these ones were a bit faster, getting the simplification down, just because I had this experience already. It carried over quite a lot, and the more I did them, the easier it got. So here, I guess, is the simplified skinny person, where you just make them straight lines. You don't add curves. That's what I discovered in the end. Just making straight lines makes someone look skinny, and you don't have to add muscles or anything. And here I took the guillotine design and I put her in a waitress outfit because I wanted to see what she would look like as a waitress. And she has more of a, I guess, a detailed design, or at least a detailed shape language. Like, she's got a longer face and sharper, more sharps. And I think that kind of contrasts her. Also, I changed the logo, so it doesn't have FF anymore for flying fish. It's just tried to simplify it. I don't know if it's better or worse. I kind of think it works a bit better, but I'm not 100% sure. And then I just tried to do a pin-up version of guillotine, and in the background you can see a cheesy slogan, "Grab life by the horns," because she puts her horns around the person and takes their life. So she's kind of grabbing their life by the horns. And I made this sleeve more apparent because she puts this weapon on, and before I had it the same color as the rest of her, and I thought, well, that makes it a little bit difficult to see, like, is this an outfit, or is this just how her hand, is this her anatomy? And I wanted it to look more like, no, she is putting on a weapon, and it's different than the rest of her, but it's still in harmony. So she has orange on the weapon, but it's not the same orange as her bodysuit, and her arm sleeve thing is blue, but it's a different blue than the rest of her bodysuit. So it does tie into the design, but also create a degree of separation. Here I wanted to flesh out these two characters, the pig and the crocodile guy, because Speck is fleshed out. So took the pig guy, and again, I can get a lot more expression and things in these simple, or not simple, but sketchy versions. But then to simplify them, I have to get rid of a lot. And again, I learn a ton by doing this simplification. Like, I learned how to make this shape more appealing. This the overall shape is more like a teardrop, whereas here it's a bit clunky. So even if I went back to a more sketchy style with more fleshed out details, After doing something like this, I would change the ratio of things. I would make his pants fatter and taper. I would make his feet smaller, and probably tie this coat more closely to his body. Making the tie smaller creates this more small shape. So you have a big shape and a medium shapes and then small shapes. Whereas here, like, the tie is not a whole lot different in size than the collar. Here it's smaller. So doing all these little tie-in shapes and things really helps figuring out how to simplify the gun and coming up with names for them. I wanted him to have sort of a pig-like name, but maybe not. So if he was a human, I probably would call him Murphy, but he's not, so I called him Murpho. I don't know if it's the best name. And then this guy's Morand. I wasn't sure what names to give him. I didn't want him to be called Croco or something like that, because then it would be too obvious. But yeah, so again, simplifying him, thinking about how to break down the forms, and still keep them looking the same. So I wanted to, if you saw these two characters here, and you saw them here, you would know it's definitely the same characters. There wouldn't be any confusion at all about who's who and what did they do. And I think that worked, so that was very good. But then I ran into trouble here. So this is Lardavar Mufflin, and this is Wasso, who I've designed previously, and these are the old designs. And I really like the old designs. I feel like they capture everything. But the style is not super simplified. So I like that everything's sort of oversized. He looks cheap, but also that he is trying to be a fancy person. He buys semi-expensive looking clothes. But his shape language isn't matching the rest. Like with the suit, it's not quite the same, so I had to alter that. And with Wasso as well, I think I really captured the feeling I was going for, which was very much a Tommy Wiseau character. He's based off Tommy Wiseau, but making it different. And he's like this slug. He looks strong, and his hands show that, but he's also got like fat, so he seems lazy in a way, but also like a doofus, but not completely. So I really feel like these two I nailed, and then simplifying them, it just felt like I was losing a lot. He felt very cute in this, and not quite scummy enough. And for this one, he just got this Peter Griffin type look to him, which I guess I gave him that chin instead of this because I didn't know how to resolve that. So Wasso is a trouble to simplify, to say the least. He's not easy. So I wasn't happy with this one. So I thought, okay, let me draw a bunch of heads of both characters and do iterations. So I tried bringing this down so it looks more like eyebrows, which I think worked. I tried shrinking the ears, making the ears kind of pointing down, really shrinking everything but bringing that eyebrow thing down. I think that kind of works. This one kind of works. This one kind of works. This one feels too much like Yoda. And this one's okay, I guess. But yeah. But with Wasso, it was much harder. So I tried, maybe the eyes are like this. Maybe the eyes just pop out like that. And there's no blue around them. Maybe I bring his mouth really high here. And maybe I center it more. And then this one... of them, I felt like this one for me worked better, but Bob and Flavia preferred this one. So yeah, still struggling with him. Here I just wanted to draw some characters, probably pretty out of it, or I didn't have much time. So I did some quick sketches, and I just wanted to convey energy, like this, just some attack. Yeah. And looking at Waso's design, trying to figure out, okay, do I give him a bigger chin or keep it more the same? And then working on simplifying characters more. Looking at these two, like, how do I treat the wrist? So here you can see the arm goes into the wrist, and then there's a little bump here, and here it doesn't. It just goes straight into the thumb. And which one works better? So I feel like I'm working on these tiny, tiny problems. And same with this, where here you have this little bump, and then you go down, and this one, it just goes straight. There is a bump there. But like, which works better? And I don't know if I'm getting too anal about things, but I do think these are sort of important things to solve. And here I tried making the hands sort of just flow right from the forearm into the hand, and it kind of works. I'm not super happy with that, to be honest. I kind of like wrists, but getting rid of them does seem to work in some ways. More playing with Waso, try to just minimize him. I thought of this thing with the hair, where I was drawing the hair kind of like boop, 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 boop. And I realized, no, if I just make it circles and then I erase and leave the outside, it gets a much cleaner silhouette, and one that makes more sense. Also trying to give it more of a neck. Here I'm playing with that thing that I mentioned where the arm goes straight into the hand. It kind of reminds me of wings, which I'm not super happy with. I actually prefer it this way, where the hands just resolve. And here the leg goes boop, boop, and then just sort of simplifies. But here it actually has some shape, and there's a foot more than here, where it just goes straight from the calf into the toe, I guess. And then here I was trying to think of like the three-dimensional shape of Waso, what he might be like without the rest of the stuff. And I was also wondering, am I completely overthinking things? So for instance, here you also get this super sharp, simple connection of the torso, and here it's like more of an S-curve. And I don't know. I still don't know if I'm oversimplifying it, but I thought not to worry about it too much. This proportion is fine. I need to ward against the impulse to simplify it further. Yeah, so here I guess I decided that this is okay. I don't need to, like, even though the arm, you know, you get your wrist, you go into the hand, it's fine. I don't need to be ultra simplifying it. Because you can always simplify things, but there needs to be a point where you stop. Here I tried drawing some kind of Sailor Scout thing. Flavia got some DVD from the library. That's where we get our movies in town. You just go to the library because they let you rent out DVDs, and it doesn't cost you anything. So it's pretty lame, I guess, in a way. But I live in such a tiny town. We don't have like a theater or anything. So we just, or cinema, depending where you're from. We just go to there, and then there's not a whole lot of choice. So she found some Sailor Moon stuff, and then I drew that. Another Waso design here, I tried to make these very thin and long, and again, like, show it to Flavia, show it to Bob. What do they think? And Bob thought, no, it's not there. You're not getting it. And then tried to get the silhouette. Silhouette's sort of reading, but yeah. So I took her, and then I guess I took everyone from this page, and I started to simplify them, but I used the dry ink brush, and I wanted to make the shapes sharp, kind of cyclified. So again, it's this combining things where, okay, I've taken something, I've simplified it. Now, well, let's mix more of what I have personally into it and see how much of myself can I put in, and how much can I make the style appealing to others. And I think that's what I'm really struggling with now and working towards, which is yes, I do want myself in the style. I don't want to just make something that it has no trace of me in there. But I also want it to be something that people will like, and not just, it's not just an audience of one or two. Well, Flavia likes my Psychrophyte style, but a lot of people don't care too much about it. So, yeah, I want to combine things, but using the dry ink brush, it makes like sharper lines, which I like, but it was not working with the color fill thing, the color drop in Procreate. It was taking a really long time, and I had to, there's like a slider you can use for color drop, and it at no point did it really work. So I had to manually color all these things, which just, and it's something I've done before, and that's how I used to color it, but it just takes forever. So I tried using the technical pen, which makes it so the color drop works just fine. So you can see here, like that line is very hard for color drop to understand, but that line isn't hard. And what makes it so, and how much of a difference is it? So this is so much faster than this, but is the quality that different? I would say the quality is a bit different. I prefer this one. However, the amount of savings you get in terms of time, and if you're making a comic, that's super important. Time is extremely important, and not getting burnt out. You don't want to be like, well, I spend forever on this. Because I've noticed with comics, especially as I read them, it's never the ones that look the best that matter. It's always the ones that the story is the best, or the characters are the best. There are plenty of comics or manga I've read which I actually don't like the art style at all, and yet they're much more captivating than some of the others where I like the art style. And I think like, oh, the drawings are really cool, but the story kind of sucks, or the characters kind of suck. And then if someone said, well, which do you like? I would never pick the one where the art is good, and the story is bad. I'll always prefer a good story with good characters. That's, you know, it's interesting, it's fun to read. I'd always prefer that to something that is like, well, the art's awesome and every single panel looks like a painting. It's just amazing. I admire those, but I don't like them. You know what I mean? Like, there's a big difference between admiring something and sort of getting out of your artist side and more to just a regular person. Which is why I think it's very important to just have a mainstream look on things sometimes. So here, I tried to simplify the Sailor Scouts, and this is more of just a drawing for Flavia. But it also let me, you know, see, well, what are they like if I simplify them into this style that I'm working on for the comics. I think some of them look goofy. These eyes aren't the same size, so it bothers me. They're not lined up properly. These ones, eh. So there's like bad things, but some of them I like. I like Sailor Mars. I think she's okay. I like her face. And Jupiter, yeah, he's cool. Mercury's okay. But yeah, just playing around, just having fun and trying to make something sort of appealing and cute. And then with Wesso, man, Wesso is such a bother. But in the end, I realized like I can't get better than this. This is him. This nailed him. So I just took this and I just simplified it. And I do lose some things, but I don't lose everything. It kind of works. It's like good enough. I had to make his suit more like the rest of the characters, and I might have to simplify it further, but overall, I just couldn't beat the original Wesso. Here's just some characters. I thought of this guy's name as DDB, and then I'm like, what could DDB stand for? And then I thought of Deep Dong Brong, which I don't know why, it's stupid. Or maybe Brukis, I guess. I was just thinking of, there must be other characters, so let me just design random things and then put them in as incidentals, because you always need incidental characters. You always need people in the background. And right now, yeah, I've worked on the main characters. I've worked on like Waso and Miura and Kei and Karen and all those ones. But what about just the characters in the background? Haven't put much emphasis on them. So in the next episode, I will be playing a lot more with the background characters and fleshing out the characters, getting the style further along, and also working on some more paintings. So yeah, I hope you'll join me for that, and I hope this helped, and thanks for watching.